3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the sports section. This is episode number 3, a podcast brought to you by the Rider News. My name is Carolo Pascale, alongside with Shaun at Chornobroff and Dylan Manfre. Why don't we just get right into it here? So, Dylan, if you want to introduce the first topic, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did a hell of a job, digging deep into Rider football, something Rider University hasn't had since it was called Rider College, back in 1951, I believe it was. That was their last season, 1951?
Yeah, that was it. And we weren't just Rider College. We were the Rider College Rough Riders.
We were even below that. We were even just below Rider College. We were called the Rider College Rough Riders.
Oh my God, it was a much, much different time. Like, as I was digging through, I was going back, I was seeing kind of old pictures of campus, stuff like that, seeing even the way our newspaper was kind of ran and printed. Not really any pictures. We had cartoonists doing stuff for the paper. It was kind of crazy. It was a lot different back then, but the Rider College Rough Riders, it's kind of a weird story. So this guy, Claire B., he originated Rider football in 1929. He's actually in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He coached Rider back then, first ever team to score 1,000 points in the NCAA season, if I'm correct. But once he left the school in 1931, it disbanded. The school was a freshman team that wasn't successful. Not long after World War II, 1946, we get brought back as a junior varsity team. The Rough Riders were going hard. They're going strong. And the record of that season I could not find. But 47, they made that jump into, I guess, what you would now call a low-level D1, kind of, if I was to compare the competition. It would kind of be where you see a Monmouth, who's a local school for comparison, an FCS school. And they were playing some other lower competition, but they sucked. They were 0-7. 0-7, if I'm correct. Their first game, they lost 79-0. Never scored more than 6 points in a game.
Damn.
It was atrocious. But then they brought in this guy. Smith L. Byham. And
that's
literally
a 5-star name.
Very good name.
It is the most
5-star name right there.
Most 1948 name I think I've ever read in my life. But literally, the school newspaper or school yearbook said it back then. He was like, they said that the team's going to go under intensive training like a real football team would. And it showed. This guy started almost all freshmen the next year. And they went 5-2-1, I believe. But then he resigned, and we bring in this guy, Joe Behat. And he's in the Rider College Hall of Fame today. And his first season, I think they went 7-1, then 5-2-1 again, 6-2. It's kind of weird, because football cost a lot, and the thing is, Rider had a really good program. It wasn't going to be anything amazing. They're no Alabama, but was it something that students liked? Yeah, it was something students liked. But here's the thing: Rider didn't have the capacity for a football team. We still don't today. We had to cut it due to cost and focus on basketball, forming soccer, things that are less resourceful. But if you're a small school hoping to establish a good a department with good revenue, those were the things that were prioritized. And in the end, it cost a lot of these guys the sport that they loved. And it wasn't a question of their success. It was a question of, money. Too many things in this world come down to money. And there was plenty, Dylan, me and you back in this day, this guy, Donald Overholtzer, he wrote a whole letter on how spirit can't be measured. A lot of the things that football provided the school could not be seen on a profit sheet. And then the next year, the first fall back, another guy wrote a letter about how much he misses football, about how the pride the school took. He was like, sure, our attendance numbers, we didn't have home field, they weren't amazing, but he's like, when you take into account the commuter population, which we still have to this day, and the fact that we're playing away from home, they were pretty good. They were very good, he would say, and they were growing. And you had a successful program. You had a growing spirit. And there's a school spirit, and there's nothing that brings in school spirit like football. As much as we love our basketball teams here, we do. I will be willing to bet if we had a football team still, we'd have a bigger attendance at football. And that's not a shot at the school. It's not a shot at anybody. It's just more of a fact. So in the end, it really was a shot to the student body. And I'm sure both of you guys could adhere to this. How many times have you guys heard, oh, I wish we had a football team I could go see play?
Many times.
And it's also really funny, because a lot of people, when they first hear about the memories of the football team, they hear about it, and they hear that it got canceled because of allegations or something serious, they did something wrong. And really, it all just came down to money, which doesn't surprise me. whatsoever. Shaun, like you said, most things in this world do come down to money, unfortunately. And it's really interesting too that Oberholzer wrote that piece. Was that published in the Rider News? Like, did you say?
Yes, I believe it was published December 7th, 1951.
Well, we're gonna have an anniversary of that in a few months, so that'll be nice to see. And that's a story idea that we should do. On that anniversary of that article being published, I would like that.
That's a good idea. We could do a nice look back at old Rider News sports pieces. I mean, that would be something pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's cut that down for later. I like that. But it's really interesting because I think that's such a big misconception when people ask why Rider doesn't have football. Because I can tell you, I don't remember who it told me, but I, very distinctly remember somebody saying, "Oh yeah, there was some allegation in the '50s that."
I heard that we paid semi-pro football players who did not attend the school. That's what I was told before doing
research. I was told that as well.
Then yeah, that's a clear allegation. God damn, Ryder. And
it's not. I mean, I don't know if that there's nothing that I could find in my research, in my digging, that that confirms that. And here's the thing: I also realized. I went into Old Rider News. There's no article on football being canceled, but there were articles like, "Oh, please say football." And then December 7th, Oberholzer puts this. Conveniently, they come back. Football is no longer here. So they waited until winter break, when you weren't going to have a student uproar, to actually get rid of the sport and to put out all this information conveniently.
Yeah, so, during winter break, students aren't here. Let's face it. This is the late 40s, early 50s. Technology is not existent. You're not having social media where you're going to hear something from, a college football insider within 5 minutes. I mean, let's face it. If they had the technology, what college football insider would be covering Rider football anyway? But,
yeah.
it would still be funny though, just to come back to school and just be like, wait, this is gone? What?
Yeah, no, literally, again, rumors were running around for a while, but if you're somebody who goes, okay, me and my friends go every Friday, the games were mostly played on Fridays back then. Every Friday, we watch our Rough Riders compete. They do pretty good. How we'll travel to Wilkes. Again, they play pretty local, so most games were within commuting distance. And then all of a sudden, this is a part of your college life that's taken away. And still, people associate college lifestyle with college football. And again, these people had this part of their lifestyle and then was taken away. Almost, if you want to compare it to it, think of it as the end of last year almost.
I was going to mention that.
Yep, I was going to say that as well.
Yeah, we had this ideal where we did this thing every single day, every single week. Even if you want to just make it sports, us, we knew we were covering 1 or 2 sports games a week. Whether Carolo's taking photos, Dylan and me are interviewing, we covering 1 or 2 sports games a week. I'm not covering sports games live right now. Dylan's doing it for another local paper. We had that kind of thing taken away from us the way those students had that experience taken away from them. So that to me, it's just kind of weird that we also do this at this time, because this is a time that we could relate to that more than ever, in my opinion.
Let me tell you something. It's weird. It's weird, okay? I've covered 3 games for the Trentonian so far. It is weird, all right? Granted, I haven't covered high school sports since I was in high school, in 2017-18, but that was my senior year. It's weird, okay? Interviewing people, with the mask on, obviously I can't say, oh, hey, can you just, take it off so I can hear you better? I'm not doing that, obviously. Some people do sound a little muffled, but it doesn't matter. Health and safety is paramount, obviously the first priority. But it's weird watching sports again. Even 3 games in, I covered my 3rd one yesterday, and it's still a little, getting back into the routine of things, of writing a game story again. You think that that's one of the easiest stories to write. I mean, if you want to make it good, it's not one of the easiest stories. Certainly if you're on deadline. I had a 7:20 p.m. deadline yesterday, but yeah, it was it's still pretty weird. It's fun, don't get me wrong, I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But, and Carolo, I'm sure you too, you're desperately trying to get back into Rider, broadcasting Rider hockey.
Mm-hmm, yeah, Rider, we still haven't really heard anything. We know that at least New Jersey had announced, what Governor Murphy said, that they can now play indoor hockey and some other indoor sports. Like I know wrestling was announced as well that they're going to be able to go forward and play, but we still don't know what's going to happen with the team. Ryder has to announce something on and give the team info on when they can start to practice with coaches and when the games could possibly start and like how many players can be at each practice, like whatever the protocols are going to be. We still don't know, and not just for commentating for that, but for even just going to take pictures of sports, like just in general, like all sports. I haven't been able to do anything.
Just like be there as media.
Yeah.
We don't even know if we're going to be able to cover hopefully, fingers crossed, all prayers, that we're going to be able to cover, the basketball teams in Alumni Gymnasium this year. Obviously we're probably not going to be along the sidelines, or the baseline rather, with how Alumni Gym is set up. There's not going to be the scorers tables with, 19, 20 people sitting all along the sideline. That's the right one. And, but on the bright side, at least they're going to have Bronc Vision, streaming the games on ESPN3, ESPN Plus. Because I know they got to maintain those contracts somehow. And that's how we watch the games. I'm fine with doing a Zoom interview here and there. I've done them before. Shaun, you've done them. Carolo, I think you've done some too.
Yeah, I've done some as well.
Right. So, it's just being I don't even want to say a normal beat writer in 2020.
Yeah, it's being flexible. That's what 2020 is. It's all about being flexible right now, with your school.
No, you used the wrong F word. Fluid. The $1 million word. Fluid. Wrong F word, Shaun. Yeah, you have 3 F words. 1 you shouldn't say on the air. 2 is fluid, and the other one is what you just said because I can't remember anything.
Flexible.
Thank you.
I'd be lying if I said I never said the first one on the air before.
Trust me, I feel you there, Shaun. It's happened before.
It's fine. But that's it. We're all fluid right now in everything we do. Like we talked before this and we're talking about, okay, like what do we do here and there? And, something could break out of our first episode. We had something scheduled and then the NCAA released the start date for the MAC. Literally as we started recording, the episode narrative changed. That is what 2020 is. You get an email last minute from your professor that you don't have to go on Zoom class anymore. What's it called? A school in my conference from high school, they had to postpone sports for 2 weeks because they had an outbreak at their school. Literally the day before the season started. That's just how it works right now. Everything is per the $1 million word fluid. And that's what media coverage will continue to be. That's what sports will continue to be. That's why the MAC has a built-in 2-week period in the middle of February to make up games. Because in the end, everything is fluid. That's where we are at right now. And I cannot wait for that to change. I like having some setness in my life. One of my favorite things is knowing that I go into the newsroom on Monday and Tuesday, paper comes out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's the only thing in my life now, and I enjoy it every week. But I cannot wait for, the rest of life to become set again, as I'm sure you guys do and everybody here listening.
Of course. It's, going to newsroom Monday, Tuesday, that's the most constant part of my life right now.
Yeah, it is. That's all of us.
I don't know how you do it, Shaun. You've been commuting a rider for, last year and this year too. I don't know how the hell you do it.
It makes this adjustment a bit easier. It's a blessing in disguise, I guess, at this point. But that's just what it is. But would I like to be able to go see my friends and hang out in their dorm rooms or sleep on their floors like I did last year? Okay, maybe not the floor part, but everything else, yeah, I really would. I enjoy that. I used to go into Ridge and see Carolo every now and then last year. I'd go into Ziegler see other friends. Now, if I want to see my friends, we're going to hang out under the tent at Daly's. Yay. It's not what it once was. And that's fine. We're making do with the best of what we got. And, hopefully eventually this fluidity ends and we can go back to life as we know it or used to know it as close as we can.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think I think like you've mentioned before and throughout this whole time where we kind of went a little bit off track of the football, but it all relates to the story that you wrote, Shaun. And I think that it really touches on how much at least at the time, the situation with Rider football was like extremely like changing in the 2 years that it like the final year and the year it was canceled in the fall and during winter break. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but we could put some pictures on screen of maybe the spread of the back page or maybe some of the pictures that I had taken while we were at the archives, while me and you were there, Shaun. And I think the main thing that really stood out from that time period was the graphics that we saw of those magazines.
That was so
those
swag.
Those are so that. Cool. Those things are amazing.
For their time period.
Yeah, for their time period, they were incredible and
they were
so
really
good. Yeah, for the late 40s, early 50s, they were nuts. They were so impressive.
Especially the picture of the program with the picture of the players or the game going on shaped into the football. That was something. Especially for the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah, hopefully we can put that one on screen because. That one is just amazing, and truly, I would say that one's like honestly the best one in a work of art. That one for for early 50s technology at the time. But moving on to our next topic now is one that you had mentioned before a little bit, Dylan, is the basketball situation that's going to be going on moving forward. So as far as I know, you said that they had announced the schedules so far.
The max schedule, I believe, is announced. That much we know. The non-conference schedule, the specific dates have not been announced yet. However, we know they're playing Rutgers, Fairleigh Dickinson University, the TNEC campus? Yeah, that's the Division I. So it's going to be Rutgers and FDU and Rider, the 3-team multi-team event. Called the New Jersey Hoop Group Classic, and they're going to play Rutgers at the Rack in New Brunswick, and they're going to host Fairleigh Dickinson. Now, Ryder said that they're going to play 5 non-conference games this year. The other 3, to my surprise, is going to be Syracuse in the ACC, and unsurprisingly, Coppin State and Delaware State. They played both teams last year, I believe. You know, Coppin State, Delaware State, probably easy wins. You know. But last year, Rider was a completely different team. They have like I think 12 newcomers this year, or newcomers, you know, including freshmen, transfers, etc. Ejiri Ogamuno Johnson, who's a junior, is the longest tenured member, you know, on this team right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, this young Rider team really, you know, gels together.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting and fun to see how they play together, especially because they have so many new players, like you mentioned. And I think that kind of falls into part of it being how they can really get across what Rider basketball is about to the young players and newcomers to the team. I think that's pretty hard to do considering the circumstances and how they're just now being able to practice. I think the first practice was actually today, as far as I can remember.
Teams, both teams, the men's and the women's teams, practiced today after, you know, every player, coach, you know, administrator. I don't know the exact number of people outside of the coaching staff and the players that got tested, but everybody was tested negative.
That's a very, very positive sign.
Yes, and I can also say that they were using the PCR tests on the players. Those are the more accurate ones. However, they do take a little longer to process. They're not the rapid antigen tests, you know. But, you know, once the season does officially start on November 25th, that's when they're going to up the testing to 3 times a week, and they're going to use that rapid antigen test. But another important note with that is that those rapid antigen tests they're effective to a point. They're less accurate than the traditional PCR test, you know, when you get the Q-tip shoved up your nose or you have to spit into a test tube, which is gross anyway. I had to do it. And for the record, it came back negative. Just putting that out there. So if a player records a false positive with the rapid antigen test, the NCAA is encouraging schools to administer a confirmatory PCR test to determine if, in fact, the player is negative. But another wrinkle to that information, Rider University has come out and said on the record that only residential symptomatic students will be getting PCR tests. Athletes are residential students, but largely asymptomatic. There's a catch.
Yeah, it's the asymptomatic versus symptomatic that's been going on for, I would say, since March now with dealing with the coronavirus.
I just want to say something else. I got to give a real big shout out to Stephen Newcomb, our executive editor. He has been doing a phenomenal job reporting on the coronavirus and holding Rider University accountable. A phenomenal job.
Yeah, Steven has done fantastic. Like you said, holding Rider accountable from all the stuff that we've seen so far with the lack of testing that's been going on for the school. And hopefully not just with the sports testing that's going to be going on, hopefully just in general, they start doing a lot more tests. Because they definitely need to do more.
Like one guy tests positive for sports, you contact trace at that point, and then those amount of tests will grow rapidly at that point. Even if it's a false positive rapid antigen or rapid test, they'll start the contact tracing process, I assume, and then you'll see the numbers grow pretty rapidly, I'd say. Once November 25th comes around, even though most students are going to be on their way home, so I'd say probably January, February, you'll see those test numbers go up pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. They'll probably go up pretty fast, like you said. And then the one other story I wanted to look at this week was the Alumni Gym renovations. Dylan or Shaun, do you want to talk on that?
I'll let Dylan talk on that one a little bit.
Sure. I mean, Rider received a $2.5 million anonymous donation from 2 donors, bringing their total up to, I believe, $11 million of the $17.7 million project. I did the story with Logan Van Dyne, a freshman writer, already published in the Rider News, so you can go to theridernews.com, check that out. But it was pretty interesting, to see some images of what Alumni Gym might look like. I don't know if it's going to be completed within my remaining time at Rider. Maybe your guys' remaining time at Rider, since both of you are sophomores. But it's good to see Rider Athletics moving in a more progressive direction.
Yeah, it definitely is. And from the concept picture that was in the actual the issue this week, I thought was really, really good and really cool. I thought it looked very, very good. Hopefully it can look like that, maybe better. Well, obviously, if it's better, then that's good. But if it can look like that, I think they've done a very, very good job with it. Hopefully it's done within your time here left at Rider, Dylan, and hopefully it's done with ours, because who knows, sometimes the projects like that take literally forever. But either way, yeah, it's very fair. But either way, that's going to do it for the podcast here today. My name's Carolo Pascale alongside Shaun Chornobroff and Dylan Manfre. Have a good one, everyone.